You haven't done it yet?
Yeah, catch up. Okay, so we're going to start section B, and you guys have already done panel component select. So I guess this will just be a review for you. So I'm going to follow my own instructions in terms of copying over attractions, and let's get going on that. So I'm not going to touch this. It's going to export, load, and find, and I'm going to require that inside my panel, right? Import attractions from /attractions, right? And then I'm going to use attractions to populate my JSX select tags with an array of JavaScript generated options. So, and I need to start having a state variable, and that's going to contain hotels. Actually, I'm just going to copy it over from my main thing. Hotels, restaurants, and activities, and this is going to contain all of the hotels, all the restaurants, all the activities, instead of just the selected ones, which the parent component has. So as you noted, like this, all the states are contained within their component, and they don't really talk to each other. It's not a global thing. So we're going to have load attractions.load, which is a promise. It's going to return a data, and then we're going to do this.setState with that data. So we're going to pass the data straight into state once it loads. This is going to load asynchronously. That's why it's okay to just put it in.
Got a quick question though, Sean.
Yeah.
You mentioned that they don't inherit the various components, even though they're extending the main component, do not inherit the constructor state, this.state.
Mm-hmm.
If we did not define it, would it have tried to go and get it from?
No, absolutely not. Okay. Cool. So now, as a sort of initial step, I'm going to try and render the hotel choices, and then we're going to refactor that to make it generalized later on. So this .state the hotels. For each, again, not for each map, and then we're going to take a hotel, and we're going to render some options, right? So I'm just going to make that a new line. Check this over. And then we're going to say option key equals hotel dot name hotel dot name option. This is an error. This will just render the literal, so I actually need to put it in braces. So that will skip about 30 minutes of your struggling to to give us the hotels. So now let's generalize this. So now this, let's actually make this a function, and let's just call it make options hotels. Make option hotels, and then let make option equals a function that takes a type, and then it returns something, and that something should just be whatever. This is no longer a hotel. This could be a restaurant or whatever, so we can just rename it as a place. It doesn't really matter what I call it. So let's just gonna replicate that over here, and then let's see the result. Hopefully, I remember to do everything right, and that's it. But I needed you guys to struggle, to learn basic things like map and for each, and for you like setting state and what you're receiving from a component. That's why I think like seeing review videos sometimes maybe not that helpful. But yeah, you have to struggle, right?
It is and it isn't. So what you just showed us is embarrassingly efficient and simple, but it took me a long time.
Yeah, but like that this is not unreachable to you. Like all this stuff, you just are not integrating it in efficient way just yet. But it literally is a few lines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So now let's go on to the harder bit, which is buttons and the bottom panel. So basically what we need to do is we need to click this, and then we need to update the selected state, and then that needs to update down back to here. So you're going literally, so this is main, this is panel, and this is map. So imagine the data flow. You're clicking something. You're clicking something here that belongs to panel. It should go up to main, and then it should go down again to both map and to panel.
And that goes back to the original question. How do you pass information if it's not inherited between or shared between objects used or shared between components using the constructor?
Glad you asked. That's why they invented props. And it's fairly important that we understand it. All right, so let's so like I said, we could actually just, because panel, this is literally like this is the same object, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I could literally just say, all right, add whatever you select here, just reflect it here.
Yep.
But that's not gonna serve me any good when I need to pass it to map, because map is a completely different component,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I need to pass it up and then down again.
But actually, what you're going to do is exactly what you described. You're going to update the hotel down below, whatever you select, on button press, and take that and pass it on to the map, just so that the map gets updated, right? You're not going to go pass it on to the map and then come back and update something else.
So let's try and like kind of be very clear what states we're talking about. Right now we have two states, one on panel and one on main, right? What does panel contain? Panel contains 15 hotels, 15 restaurants, 15 activities. That only applies here.
Yeah.
What does this contain? This not this
Yeah,
panel
this
state.
is only the
It's actually the
selected
main state. This is contains everything that's been selected. Right? So we're actually displaying main state inside panel.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta pass main state inside panel, right? So let's see what other instructions I have to myself. So you put the state as the parent and then you pass the state down as props. That's the solution to passing information. The other thing as well, if you need to change this parent state using the child state, you also need to pass functions that mutate that state from above. So we're going to write, so
you can pass functions from the parent to the child, or child to the parent.
Right. Yes, you can. You can pass functions from parent to child. Okay. So then before we jump ahead and do all that, let me just establish how props work by doing a basic sort of state function. So I'm going to go into main and I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to say, all right, run Jeets sweet pad, right? And I'm going to pass this down as a prop called main state. Sorry. So anything I type here is a prop. Main state equals to this dot state, right? So I'm just like, take this whole chunk, chuck it in here. What am I going to get here? So first I got to receive my props, and that's done by chucking in both these two things. And then at this point I could just console log. Let's console log this dot
props dot.
So what should I see?
You see the state object that was passed from the previous.
Okay, what is the key of that object and what is the value of that object?
The three keys: hotels, restaurants, activities.
Wrong. What's the key of that object and what's the value of that object?
Main state, this state.
Yes, so it's going to be an object that contains the key of main state, and then the value is another object, and inside that value is the hotels, the restaurants, and activities. Okay.
Just show me the prop setup again, if you don't mind.
This is the prop. So
main state is equal to this. Oh, okay.
This is the parent, yeah?
Yeah, okay.
Actually, let me just do dual screen. And then this is the child, right? So from parent, I'm passing my state down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to receive it over here, and then I'm going to console log it. That's all I'm doing.
Why did you put it in super too?
Straight answer is I don't know. But the intuitive answer is that you need to tell your constructor that you're receiving something from above. But straight answer is I don't know. And let's see the console log, which is exactly what we predicted, which is main state within object that contains all these things. All right, good. So now I can display this. How do I use this? I just put it in my list, right? So like this dot props dot main state dot what's it called, hotels dot map, hotel whatever. I need a list item. That's hotel. So when I render, now it should show Ranji's sweet pad in my hotel.
There should be an issue though, right? Oh, well, actually, it'll show you multiple items if you selected multiple items, which is fine.
We're also going to do just as a CSS formatting thing. So over in the old client index, when we create list item, I guess. Where is it? Where do we create the list item? We also attach a class name of itinerary item. And how, this is the old paradigm. That's why I warn you not to copy and paste, because this is the old paradigm. You manually create and you attach a class name and then you append. Now we're literally templating it out.
Yeah, so you just type it out, li space class name.
Yeah, exactly. So this will now appear nicer in terms of the CSS that we already preset. Okay, good to go. All right, so so that's the. So that's passing state from parent to child. I'm going to get rid of this. And now I need to pass functions that help me So right now I need to attach on-click events to these buttons, so that when I click on them, it chooses the value of the select, and then it passes it up to my state, and it updates the state. So that's the goal. I cannot create those functions from within here. I need to create from within here. Why? Because of the context of this. I need to have access to this .set state. So here's an add function and a delete function. Those are the two things that we're going to need. So I'm going to paste up the pseudocode, and you can see what each line does. This looks bad. Okay. So first, what am I going to do? I'm going to get the selected ID. So
How are you going to get something from main when it's not visible? Whatever selected is only inside the panel.
Yeah, but this is a little hacky. It already exists on the DOM, right? So like when this thing is called, I know, because it's a button that's here.
Yeah.
I know this will exist as well. So literally, it's just document. So you have to splice in a little bit of vanilla JavaScript, and you're gonna say again, very similar to this. How do we do this one? We do
get element.
On
button press, right? So
yeah. So this is us adding. We select that button, right? We select this button, and then we add an event listener click. We handle add attraction, and how we do that is, and here we're doing exactly the same thing. We're doing document get element by ID, attraction type choices, and that's the select thing where we're going to collect the value from, right? So I'm going to combine all this into, document get element by ID, in which I pass the attraction type. So now I have these choices. Actually, maybe I should just do this. Can I just look at this? Right. So it's very clear. This is called hotels choices, and this has a property called value that we're gonna use. I don't know where it is, but it's too much. Okay. Well, you know what it is. So I'm just gonna call value, and I'm gonna call that like let maybe const selected ID equals. So that's the first comment, which is we're getting the DOM element's value based on whether it's hotel, restaurant, or activity, which is going to get the DOM element value, and then we're going to chuck that into the selected ID. Now we're going to retrieve. Now that's only an ID. We actually need the whole object, so we need attraction.find. I don't personally remember how this is used, but that's no issue. That's again, we're basically rebuilding the functionality of handle attraction over here, but we don't want to copy and paste. We just want to refer to it. In this case, yeah, we can actually copy and paste. One minor issue here, we're using attractions in the main function, so we also going to have to import that as well. Okay, so now so now really we're kind of done. Like we just need to chuck this selected attraction into this .state .whatever. But we cannot modify this .state directly. we have to modify this dot. We have to use this dot set state. So ideally, let me just really drive my point home. Ideally, we want to do this, which you tried to do earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You want to just push it in, and you'll be done. Unfortunately, we cannot do that. Why? Because the DOM is not going to re-render.
So this dot set state.
Yes, you have to do. You cannot do this. So bad. So you have to kind of do it manually, and so there's some easy ways to do it, which I guess it will take a while to learn. But for example, like new state equals to object dot assign, which you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know you know. I'm not sure if you know.
No.
So object dot assign basically joins two objects.
In fact, that's what I was trying to do when you suggested copy the object.
Yeah,
I
I understand. So this is how you clone objects. You have an empty object and you have the object that you want to clone. It merges it together and it produces a new object. So that's a safe way to combine objects instead of how does this differ from, why can't I just do this?
You're referring to the same object.
Yeah, this is copying by reference instead of copying by value. So I need to really make a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a nuance. Then I modify the cloned object, so new state. Then I can really do this.
The set states in this.
Exactly. I can kind of that, and then chuck that in with set state. Okay.
So you're doing all this before render.
Well, set state
no,
will
this is
then
just a
call.
function.
This is just a function.
Okay.
So now I'm done with this function. Now I actually need to pass it along. And I can pass it along just like I can do it with a normal value. I can just do just add func. One thing to add as well, because I use this inside this function, it's going to get confused once I pass it down. It's not going to know what this is, so I'm going to have to bind it. And the way you bind functions is you do this dot add func equals to this dot add func dot bind this. Okay. And that's how you sort of ensure that the context of this is always set to main component instead of the panel component.
So over here, you're saying that this panel has a property of main state and add func.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can always format it like this if you get to. I've seen ridiculously long lists of props, and it's arbitrary, but you can always reformat it like this. There is another way to bind functions, and we can get into that here. For example, if we have a del func, which we're going to write later on, we can also just bind like that.
Mm-hmm.
But full stack hasn't taught us this, so I'm just letting you know. Personally, I like this better than this, but whatever.
They're the same.
Yeah, and just for fun, Vue doesn't require binding.
Quick question though, back to the binding though. They're exactly the same command.
Huh?
The two commands that you've shown us, one in the constructor and one down below, both bind statements are exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's just the first one you put it here, while the
Explicitly
second one you
binding.
just put it here.
Yeah. It's very minor. I wouldn't get hung up about it. Just pick one and just.
Yeah, no, that's easier to do. The second one is definitely easier.
Okay, so now again, because we received, now we have a prop that's called add func, and we're going to receive that as part of our this.props. We can now add it to our buttons, right? So in normal JavaScript, you would do it onClick equals whatever, alert, hello, world, whatever, right? In fact, I think I can even run this. Crap.
Now JavaScript, you just say event, right? So on button click, what are you doing over here?
Come again?
Why are you saying on click alert?
I'm just saying this is normal JavaScript, okay? And in React world, it's on click with a capital C, because they need you to give, just like class name, they need you to give something that's not reserved as a keyword, so that they can do their magic on it. So here we're gonna give it, this props add func, for example, and that's the function that you pass from above. add-func expects a variable. So for example, this one is restaurants. So we're going to give it restaurants. And what is it going to do with that variable? Let's have a little bit of revision. It's going to receive restaurants, right? It's going to receive restaurants from here. It's going to go over here. It's going to pick restaurants choices.value, which is the neighboring thingy. And then it's going to pass that value basically straight into state. Happy with that? Good. So this is still invalid. Why is it invalid? I mean, I think I can just show you. All right, let me just show you. So I can predict the error that the mistake that it's going to get, because when you pass things to onClick, if it's not a function, it's going to just execute it immediately. This is a statement. This is not a function.
I see.
So it's going to execute it immediately. So what that means when I load this is I'm going to immediately have a restaurant here. If I did it right. I didn't even do that right. So let's try and do some hot fixes. So let me just convert this to a function. It's easier. Yeah. Well, I was hoping to show you a mistake, but it looks like it would be too messy. So it's telling you onClick is an issue, but it's still going to give it's not going to do anything for me. Okay, so let's just fix that onClick issue. I should give it a.
You have to capitalize. Let's see.
Yeah, I think that's right. For some reason, the add button isn't working, and I have to figure that out. Why it's not working? Okay. So you should have a key prop.
Same issue.
Right. So it actually is working. So here is where you can start debugging using the React Dev tools. So check this out. I'm in the main class right now, and it's got main, and it's got all the stuff that we made, including the whatever. But importantly, it's got state, and I can check out that I added state I added hotels to my state. So let me add a restaurant. You see that? Let me add activities.
But there is no.
I haven't wired up activities yet. You see that? It updates live.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't push anything inside it. I'm not sure it's displaying the object correctly. I don't think it's displaying it correctly.
It's got the ID though, right?
Yeah, but this is a nice way of debugging React. Because you can see things live as things actually. So like, for example, I have confidence that it is setting state to this and passing it on. What it's not doing is it's not displaying on the panel side. So I just need to go ahead and fix that. Pass it on to this setting state, hotel, hotels.map. Okay. Frankly, it should just render, so I'm not really sure why. Let's see. So let's just have a unique class name key. Unique key of hotel.name. Oh, this should be hotel.name, right? Okay. All right, let's wire it up. Okay, console. Still an issue. Cannot read properly name of undefined. So I have some weird shit going on. So let's console log. Props dot main state. It's still called main state, right? And I should still re-render it. Right, let's see what's going on here. So seeing a bit of live debugging. Cannot read properly name of undefined. Huh. Okay, so it looks like I'm pushing undefined. So something, you know, again here we're pushing stuff in, but it's turning out to be null. So I think I did something wrong with my attraction. Let's see how. I think I'm not using attraction.find correctly. Let's see how these guys use it. Again, because I'm not super familiar with. Selected attraction, selected ID, dot value. Yeah, I'm basically copying one for one over.
Same function.
Let's see this. Find. Okay. So let's console out what this thing is. This is definitely not what I expect. I also like to console out with names if you start calling it up. Why is it undefined? It's so weird. Selected ID choices. It could be that I named it wrong. So this is hotels, and I named it hotels. So like, what is selected ID then, right? It's not finding anything. This is a bad way to record things. Selected ID is okay. So it expects an ID instead of a name, right? So that was kind of me taking shortcuts in terms of things, and let's fix that. So when we make options, okay, let's make more screen space. When we make options, we can actually provide an ID or a value, an option value. So we should provide an option value, and we call it place.id. And this is the ID that will get reflected ultimately. So a bit of oversight there, but now I should actually find the correct thing. Okay, so let's make that parametric. Making things parametric just means turning things into functions. So let's just call this whatever. Make li hotels, right? And we're going to call this make li equals to type again, and then paste whatever I finished over here. I think this will work, except I need to sort of redo this. And what else do I need to do? I need to also make this option, and then this option, and put it over here, make it over here. So I made LIs for these three things. Whoa. Okay. Oh, good. So I can add all three things now. This button isn't wired up yet, so I need to click this button. But like, not overwhelming, right? If you sort of approach it in a structured way. And I definitely feel like I have more control over the state. And I have a little thing at the conclusion where I talk a little bit about the benefits of refactoring this into React. So we can talk about that later, but our goal here is just to learn React. So the add button works, but the delete button doesn't. It doesn't exist yet. So we do need to make this a little more complicated in terms of what we return. So let's actually make this multi-line, and then we can sort of do some magic on it. So what does the index.js do? They add client index.js, they add a delete button, right? That has these classes. So we're going to do that as well. We're going to have delete button. God, I'm kind of blanking as well. X, close button. Okay, and then it's got these classes, btn, danger, remove circle, whatever. Class name equals X, right? And because I've refactored all this, when I add them, it's going to show up as a button. Nicely, yeah, all over the place. All right, but they don't do anything, so I have to add I have to add on-click events to the thing that I'm adding on-click to, right? So
so would you put the
now,
on-click events inside the li tag itself?
Yeah.
Copy that whole thing
on the button tag. Right?
Yeah.
So same as I did earlier.
Yep.
And instead of this add func, I'm going to say del func. And I haven't really filled that out yet, but del func expects an attraction type as well as an ID. So I'm going to give it hotels, and I'm going to give it type as well as my ID, which happens to be place.id. Right. So now, kind of receiving this, it says clone state into a new object, so you can modify it. All right. You know how to do that. Filter out anything that has the target ID from the new object attraction type. So it's kind of like I have to manually remove. You may find a better way of doing this. I wasn't very happy with this way of doing it, but whatever, right? Whatever works. So I'm going to do things like, that new state. So, so new state attraction type currently has the old. I'm trying to remove something from a list. Mm-hmm. Let's just say I've got 5 hotels. I need to remove one of the hotels. So I've got 5 hotels. I need to filter this to remove that particular hotel that matches the ID, right? So for me, I found that the way I did it was I filtered stuff. So like X equals to, so the filter function, the array.filter function basically keeps
Finds
whatever you return true for and removes whatever you return false for.
Could you not do a find and slice?
You can as well, but in this case I'm finding objects.
Yeah, and the objects don't have names?
The objects have names, yeah.
So that would still work on slice and find, right?
Yeah.
You just need to find by ID or whatever, and then slice it out.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not that familiar with find. Unless do you know what you do? Okay.
I've used find and slice in the past. I haven't used filter in the past.
Perfectly fine as well. There's no, whatever it is, just get it out, right? So for me, it basically I receive a place, and then I check if the place.id is not equals to the given ID. And if it's not equal, I want to return true. And if it's equal, I want it to return false, so it gets removed. So that's my new my new state now has the thing that is missing whatever I wanted to delete, and all I do is I just set state with the new object. So if my computer doesn't hate me, we will have a way to delete things. Yeah. So I think that brings us up to finish the entire thing with props. But it gives you an idea of how to pass props both as data sets as well as functions, and then kind of working with binding, kind of working with calling events on your buttons, which is pretty important for Ajax. And that's about it. I think that's actually the whole. That's the whole of section B. I do think that markers are harder because we haven't done markers yet. I do think the markers are harder, and we probably won't have time to do that today. But I think it's good enough for you to understand props and do that here. Perfect. All right, cool. All right.
Can you share this video with us?
Yeah.